The debate around who should start as Lions fullback in the Tour of Australia has pretty much been narrowed down to two players, played at the two best club sides in the Northern Hemisphere and possibly in the world. A Scotsman whose flair, versatility and highlight reel actions have made him stand out in a Toulouse team full of Galacticos. The other, an Irishman who quietly leads his Leinster and Ireland team through consistency, work rate and aerial dominance. But we have another name to throw in the hat as well, someone who you may have forgotten about. Let's get into it. Firstly, I think this fullback position gives Andy Farrell a slight tactical advantage. I think given that there are two outstanding candidates in Kinghorn and Keenan for that 15 shirt, it does give Andy Farrell the choice if he wants to bring a 10 who plays 15 or a 15 who plays 10 to be able to cover those two positions. And I suppose give him a little bit of flexibility and potentially pick an extra second row, an extra back row, or an extra centre if he wants. So I think those two outstanding candidates frees Andy Farrell up to potentially bring somebody like a Marcus Smith who can play 10 and 15. So selecting someone like a Marcus Smith, who clearly has the ability to play 10, but has played a lot of rugby at 15 in this Six Nations. Somebody like Tom Jordan, who can play all across the backline at 10, 15, 12. And the guy we're going to speak a little bit about in this video as well, really does give Andy Farrell that flexibility, the versatility, and the option of if he's light or if he's in two minds about bringing an extra centre, an extra back row, an extra second row, for example. It really gives him the option to do that if he wants. In recent times, the game has been leaning towards, I suppose, picking a centre who's going to win you that gain line and have a real physical presence. You look at Ireland with Bundy Aki, you look at South Africa with Damien Dialande, you look at England with Ollie Lawrence, you look at Scotland with Tuipulotu. So the game has changed in terms of having to win the gain line being so important and getting your team on the front foot, which links into this video and links into the way that 15's role and the role of the fullback has changed. So many teams now are using their 15 as a second playmaker. You look at France with Thomas Ramos. You look at New Zealand and the All Blacks with Beauden Barrett. You look at Willie LaRue, how many times he steps in at first receiver, second receiver for the Springboks. So I think the emphasis has changed on having a second playmaker at 12 to now having that second playmaker and second pair of eyes and pair of hands in the back line coming from your 15 position. So the first guy we're going to talk about for the Lions 15 shirt is Hugo Keenan. He's the obvious choice in a sense because he's a bit of an old school fullback and he does everything and ticks every box that you'd want from your traditional fullback. He's brilliant aerially, catching 11% more than any other Six Nations player in the back three, whether that's offensively, defensively. He's just absolutely rock solid. Positionally, never, ever in the wrong position. Reminds me a little bit of a prime Lee Halfpenny in terms of never makes any errors, work rate off the charts, positional play, absolutely superb, organising that sort of back three and organising that backfield setup. And his work rate is absolutely off the charts. He's got some engine. I think he holds one of the best scores for the Bronco test, which is I suppose the norm and the universal test for rugby players for fitness in terms of 20 metres back, 40 metres back, 60 metres back. He's got some engine to have to track across each width of the pitch. And I think that's really, really important because when you play against a team who like to play to width, and Australia are a team who are going to do that. They're going to challenge the Lions in that 13 channel. They're going to look to go coast to coast. You have to have a fullback who's in position all the time. And what Hugo Keenan's work rate, fitness scores, positional play allows him to do that is by being in the right position at the right time. So whether Australia go coast to coast and put a little grubber in, whether they go coast to coast, back to the middle, short side, he has to be in that right position. And he relies a lot on his fitness work, his positional play. And he, obviously being Irish, he understands what Andy Farrell is going to want from his fullback, what he wants in his defensive setup and what he wants in his attacking game. So if you want someone who's brilliant defensively, brilliant aerially, and I suppose is your real safe pair of hands in that backfield, never going to miss a tackle, brilliant in terms of defensive work, and probably going to be in position and be a real safe pair of hands, I think Hugo Keenan's your man. But what his point of difference is in attack is his ability, with his work rate, again, being top of the charts, is to create an extra number in attack. And what that means is if the Lions are playing from their, into the 5 metre, into the 15 metre channel with width, they then maybe use 1-2 phases to sort of condense the opposition. What that gives Keenan time, and whether it's 1 or 2 phases, is his ability to get on his bike, scan the short side, but then he works to create an extra number. So instead of maybe the Lions or Leinster or Ireland having a a 3v3, his work rate getting into position, whether it's on the inside, whether it's on the outside, to create a 4v3, a 3v2, a 5v4, I think is his point of difference, and something that the way that Ireland play in particular, where they know what structures they play, they know that they're going to go off 9 here, off 10 there, out the back this phase. I think that makes a huge, huge point of difference for Hugo Keenan in attack. His main rival for the 15 shirt is Scotland's Blair Kinghorn. A very different player to Hugo Keenan in the fact that he's 6'4", 100 plus kgs, and his ability to beat people, the flair that he brings, his ability to sort of offload. I think he's most offloads in the Six Nations, most carries in the Six Nations, and up there for post-contact meters. And what that does in those post-contact meters, especially when you're attacking and launching counterattacks from the backfield, is it allows you to move the point of contact, keep your team on the front foot, free himself for offloads. And where he's exceptional is in those wide channels where you think you've got him, you think that you're pushing him into touch or you're getting him into a wide ruck where you can counter ruck and challenge that ruck. He's got that ability to step back in, use his frame, use his speed, use his strength, win meters, post-contact meters, or even get an offload and keep the attack moving forward. The reason why he can get so many offloads is just his frame and his wingspan is just so rangy, so long. He can get his arms free in contact, pump his legs, use that frame and his wingspan to just deliver an out the back or a short offload. And again, just keep that play going. Like I said, top of the charts for offloads in the Six Nations, and his first intent and his first thought is how can he attack? How can he bring that ball back? How can he make an attacking option? He's got a long kicking game. So if you need to play that territory game in terms of going 22 to 22, he's got the option of restarting, brilliant hang time on his restarts, and almost using that as a bit of an extra set piece for the Lions in Australia. Another big strength of Kinghorn's is his versatility. Has the ability, has played 10, can play on the wing, plays a lot of rugby on the wing for Toulouse, actually. And I think if we'd been having this conversation maybe 2 years ago, I'm not sure Blair Kinghorn would have been in the mix, but the amount of time and the amount of games that he's played for Toulouse, the best club side in the world, I just think it's shown. Playing with DuPont, playing with Ramos, playing with Intermac. These guys have brought Blair Kinghorn's game onto another level in terms of that offloading, his support play, his attacking intent, matched up with the way how Scotland play, using his big frame and his strength in those wider channels to beat people, offload. Playing in that Toulouse team has just been huge for Blair Kinghorn and has brought his game on massively, which you'd expect playing in that team. I suppose the one thing talking about Toulouse, that could be a slight factor in terms of he's probably going to miss maybe the first couple of weeks of tour, the Argentina game, and the first week in Australia because of the top 14 final. So that's another point for Andy Farrell to factor in. But in terms of his play, absolute super strength is his ability and his frame to make space, to launch plays, to launch counterattacks, and I suppose just a real attacking threat. So his real point of difference is his flair game, his attacking threat, the offloading threat. But he's probably not quite as consistent as Hugo Keenan in terms of his tackle success in the Six Nations is down at around 60%, not quite as positive under the high ball, offensively or defensively, as Hugo Keenan. So I suppose the question is, does the X factor moments, the highlight reels, the offloads, the tries, does that outweigh the nitty gritty work rate consistency of an out and out fullback? That's the question for me. So the one you've all forgotten about is England's George Furbank. Rugby fans with short memories may well forget that it was actually George Furbank who was the catalyst to a lot of England's positive play of last summer's tour to New Zealand. His ability to step in at 10 adds real value to a team. Quite often you'll see the number 10, whether he's taking a high ball, you're 10 in a ruck, whatever it is. When you've got George Furbank on the field, he's so comfortable stepping in that second receiver, first receiver position. It doesn't really matter that your 10's out of play for 3, 4, 5 phases. He's comfortable, loads and loads of touches. A bit more of a distributor, but has got the ability to challenge the line, good turn of speed, lovely hands, lovely offloading game. And what he does really well is he IDs space well. So he'll know where the space is before the ball's in his hand. He'll know that there's grubber space. He'll know that there's space in behind the defensive line. Or he can pick on a front 5 forward, play short play, keeps tempo high, and absolutely loves launching counterattacks. If you kick the ball down his throat, his first thought is, how many meters can I eat up? Can I get my team back on the front foot? So having someone like George Furbank on tour would not be the worst idea by a country mile. The thing that works against George Furbank is he has been injured for the whole of the Six Nations. So he's going to need a huge end of the season with Northampton in the Champions Cup and in the Premiership to really sort of catapult himself into Lions contention. Tour Watch connected by Vodafone. My pick for the 15 jersey is Hugo Keenan, but I am going to put Blair Kinghorn in my starting 15 as well. I'm going to select Blair on the wing. Obviously, he plays a lot of rugby on the wing for Toulouse. He doesn't play huge amounts of rugby in that position at international level, but effectively, you're playing international rugby every week when you play for Toulouse with the players he's playing with. I don't see that being a problem. But the main reason why I've picked him on the wing is because if you look at the last 4 Lion series, you look at 09 in South Africa, 52 metres, Mornay Steyn to win the series. You look at 2013, Halfpenny with a match-winning kick from 50-plus metres, just falling short. New Zealand 2017, Elliot Daly nailing a 55-metre goal kick in a drawn series in the final test. And even in 2021, Mornay Steyn again, knocking over an important goal kick to win the series. So you look at how the last 4 Lion series have gone, there will be big moments. There will be long-range goal kicks. And I think every team that's got the ability to pick someone who can goal kick from 50-plus metres is a huge, huge asset. And that's why I couldn't separate the two of them in that sense. I felt like you needed Blair Kinghorn in the team for his goal kicking and his X factor. I feel like you've got X factor on the wing in Blair Kinghorn in his attacking threats. I feel like the probable choice on the other wing is going to be James Lowe, who gives you a shed ton of X factor as well. So I felt like I couldn't miss out on the opportunity of picking Hugo Keenan at 15 just to give a real balance to that back three in terms of defensively solid, positionally brilliant, very few errors to go in with that back three of James Lowe and Blair Kinghorn on the wing and Hugo Keenan at fullback. So that gives us a back three. On one wing, Blair Kinghorn with his attacking threat, his offloading game, his line break, and most importantly, his long-distance goal kicking. On the other wing, who we probably think is going to be James Lowe, a long left-footed kicking game, offloading threat, powerful run-in. So I felt like I couldn't miss out on the opportunity of picking an out-and-out 15 at the back in Hugo Keenan. Brilliant under the high ball, defensively superb, ability to read the game and be in perfect position at all times, and work rate absolutely through the roof.
Pod. Rugby pod.